The shocking day everyone faces judgment. Is your name listed in the book of life? The streets were packed, buzzing with a mix of excitement and fear. Today was the day. A chill ran through the air, thick with whispers as people exchanged worried glances. The sky loomed overhead, gray and heavy, a portent of the strange events that were to unfold. Every pulse in the crowd drummed an ominous tune, each heartbeat matched by the weight of the day's significance. In a moment, the world unraveled, and individuals stood at the brink of something unknown, something terrifying. Among those drawn to the main square was Jenna, her heart hammering like a wild bird trying to escape its cage. She had heard tales of a mystical book, one that held the names of the judged, a book that would determine fates. The darker the stories grew, the more she felt the air thicken around her. Faces crowded close, whispers turning into frantic conversations filled with despair. What if my name isn't in there? A man muttered, his voice tinged with panic, his hands trembling like leaves in a storm. As the clock struck noon, a resounding bell echoed, cutting through the murmur. Jenna's throat tightened. This was it. What would happen? Fear hung like a thick fog as a figure stepped onto the platform. Cloaked in a dark robe, the figure moved with an air of authority, their face hidden in shadow. The crowd's chatter faded, a collective silence overtaking them. Everyone held their breath, waiting for a revelation that promised to change lives forever. Could each of them stand the judgment that was about to unfold? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure raised a hand, and gasps rippled through the crowd. As if sensing the shared dread, there was a flicker of something in the air, a strange energy that crackled like static, racing among the terrified crowd. When your name is called, the figure spoke, voice deep and echoing, you will know your fate. Prepare yourselves. Jenna's heart raced even faster. The names would be read, one by one. She could see the faces of those standing around her, some filled with hope, but many twisted in fear. She squeezed her eyes shut, imagining the weight of that book, heavy with secrets. What if the name Jenna was never called? What would that mean for her? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and a shout echoed above the crowd. The figure looked out, eyes piercing even from the shadows, and declared, "Let the judgment begin." As the first name rang out through the air, shadows deepened, and a feeling of impending doom blanketed the square. What lay in wait for each soul that dared enter this twisted realm? Each moment was a heartbeat away from chaos. The figure's voice penetrated the tense atmosphere, announcing the first name with an unsettling clarity. Michael Thompson. The name hung like a shroud over the crowd, stiffening the air. Jenna's stomach twisted into knots as a lone man stepped forward, trembling at the edge of the platform. Michael looked out over the multitude, fear and confusion etched across his face. His palms glistened with sweat, a stark contrast to the coldness pervading the square. What awaited him? Jenna felt a surge of sympathy mixed with dread. As Michael approached, the cloaked figure raised a hand again. Step forth, Michael. Reveal your deeds. Michael's lips quivered as he began to speak. I've tried to be a good man. I help my neighbors. I volunteer. His voice rose, desperation coloring his words. I've made mistakes, but haven't we all? Gasps erupted from the crowd, some people nodding in agreement, others shaking their heads in disapproval. It was the law of judgment laid bare, and the stakes were high. Jenna felt the air thicken around her, each breath an exercise in restraint. Silence. The figure commanded, a thunderous echo reverberating through the square. The murmurs ceased instantly. The figure turned to Michael, their shadowy face inscrutable. Good acts alone cannot cleanse your soul. You must face the truth within. A palpable tension surrounded the watchers. The pressure of collective anxiety grew stronger as the crowd awaited what would happen next. Jenna found herself holding her breath, her heart racing alongside the tension coursing through the gathering. Then, without warning, the ground shook violently. Michael stumbled, his feet barely holding him up. Cries of alarm erupted as people grabbed onto one another to steady themselves. A fierce light blazed from the figure's eyes, illuminating the cloaked face, now more imposing than ever. Michael backed away, panic gripping him. "Wait. Please. Don't." Suddenly, the earth opened beneath him, a crevice splitting the ground, dark and unfathomable. In a split second before Jenna could even register the horror unfolding, the gaping hole swallowed Michael. Silence fell like a blanket, leaving only the echo of his last, terrified scream hanging in the air. The crowd was frozen, many covering their mouths in shock. Jenna's insides twisted, a visceral response to the abject terror displayed before her. This wasn't merely judgment, it was a swift execution of fear itself. Each person around her became hyper-aware, shifting nervously as they sought the comfort of shared terror. "Next." The figure called, voice chillingly calm. "Who will stand before the book?" Jenna's heart raced. It felt as though the figure was looking directly at her, their dark gaze piercing through the crowd. She wanted to flee, but her legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot. The names continued to roll out, faces brought forth, souls judged, and fates sealed, each moment more harrowing than the last. She barely caught a glimpse of those called, their expressions flickering between hope and despair, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that every name was leading towards her. Jenna Anderson. Her breath caught in her throat, icy panic setting in. This was it. This moment felt monumental, it was a reckoning she never braced herself for. All the stories she'd heard about the book flooded back to her. Would her name mean salvation or eternal darkness? With each step toward the platform, Jenna felt the weight of the world pressing against her. The crowd swirled around her, voices fading into a low murmur. She squeezed her eyes shut momentarily, searching for a sliver of hope amid the horror that engulfed them. "Jenna," the figure beckoned softly, yet the tone still carried the weight of impending doom. "Face yourself." Would she find redemption, or would darkness consume her as it had Michael? What truth lurked in the depths of her soul? As she opened her eyes, heart pounding loudly, a sudden unease washed over her. The square trembled, as if shaking off the terrible weight of fate, and as Jenna looked into the figure's obscured face, an unsettling new revelation stirred something beyond judgment, a truth that connected them all. What was it that lay shrouded beneath the surface? All eyes were on her, and in that moment, Jenna realized she wasn't just facing judgment, she was about to uncover something far more sinister. Jenna's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a frantic animal desperate to escape. Every eye in the square was fixed upon her, the oppressive weight of their gazes a tangible force. The figure remained shrouded in mystery, their dark hood casting ominous shadows over their face. Fear coiled in her stomach like a live wire. "Face yourself," the figure repeated, voice low and rumbling, as if pulling thunder from the depths of the earth. What does that even mean? In that moment, all the noise of the crowd faded into a distant hum, drowned out by the pounding of her heart. She felt a trembling in her legs, as if she might collapse right there on the platform. But something inside her stirred a flicker of determination. "Jenna Anderson," the cloaked figure said again, more forcefully this time. "You stand at the crossroads of truth and consequence. What will you reveal?" It wasn't just her that was on display, it was the very essence of who she was. Flashes of her life raced through her mind, the mistakes, the regrets, the times she had chosen her own comfort over standing up for others. The shame clawed at her as she opened her mouth to speak. But before she could continue, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble once more, a violent quake radiating outwards. The once formidable square trembled ominously, sending vibrations up her legs. "What is happening?" someone cried out from the crowd. Panic set in, people whispered in frantic tones, Jenna's skin prickled, her instincts screaming for her to run. She caught glimpses of expressions twisted with fear, the faces she recognized had morphed into masks of horror. They weren't just scared, they were terrified, like mice cornered by a snake. "Stand still!" the figure ordered, their voice a whip crack through the chaos. "The judgment is not finished." The square shifted, shadows dancing wildly as they seemed to stretch and swirl, blending the people and the platform into a surreal nightmare. Jenna looked down and gasped. The cracks in the ground seemed to pulse, a living thing eager to split open once more. She felt the urge to flee, but where would she go? Every instinct told her to take flight, but something deeper held her captive. She had to face this, whatever it was. "Look within, Jenna," the figure's tone softened. "What lies beneath the surface? You fear judgment, yet your truth is your power. Share your heart." Panic coursed through her like ice water. Was her truth really powerful, or was it just another nail in her coffin? With trembling hands, she grasped the edges of the platform, grounding herself. She opened her mouth, the words spilling out, raw and unfiltered. "I am afraid. Afraid of being unworthy, afraid I'll never be enough, afraid of judgment. But I've also loved fiercely, I've fought for those who couldn't fight for themselves." The crowd leaned in, silent, hanging on her every word. "Every moment of my life has been a tug-of-war between darkness and light," she continued, her voice trembling but gaining strength. "I am not perfect. I've made horrible choices. But I am human. Aren't we all?" As she finished, the square fell eerily silent. Jenna stood panting, a wave of vulnerability washing over her. Would this honesty be her salvation or her demise? The cloaked figure slowly raised their head, revealing eyes that glinted like shards of ice. "So you choose to embrace your flaws, to acknowledge your fears. This is but a taste of what is to come. You think you are alone. You are connected to each soul gathered here, each battle fought and lost, each truth hidden. Are you ready to see what binds you to the others?" A wordless gasp emerged from the crowd as the ground beneath Jenna began to open again, wider and darker, swallowing the echoes of her voice. She felt herself teetering on the edge, balanced between revelation and dread. What did that mean? What truth could possibly link her fate to theirs? Suddenly, the illumination from the figure brightened, casting long shadows across the square. The energy shifted, weightlifting but crackling with anticipation. Jenna looked into the abyss and realized it was not just about her anymore. What lay hidden in that darkness? Would she take the leap into the unknown, or would fear pull her back? A choice loomed before her, and now she understood, this was much bigger than personal judgment. Where will this truth lead us all? She whispered, feeling the tremor in her voice echo through the silence. How deep did the rabbit hole go? And more importantly, what awaited them on the other side? Jenna stood at the brink, teetering on the precipice of an unfathomable darkness. The echoing silence of the crowd sent a chill down her spine. Fear clutched at her throat, but mingled with that fear was a thread of curiosity, an undeniable temptation to push beyond the veil. "Are you ready, Jenna?" the cloaked figure prompted, their voice resonating deep and resonant, merging with the tremors beneath her feet. The shadows grew thicker, coiling around her like serpents, squeezing the air from her lungs. "What binds us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, quivering with uncertainty. "Your truth," came the figure's insistent reply. "Reveal what you have hidden. Only then will the ties between you and them unfurl." With every pulse of the earth, Jenna felt something awakening inside her, a fierce longing to break free from the shackles of her past. The weight of her own secrets hung heavy, suffocating yet liberating. Was this the moment to unearth them? The crowd stood transfixed, their faces a medley of intrigue and horror. She could see the flickers of recognition, the agony of shared fears painted across the eyebrows of those she once called friends. What if they were all here for the same reason? The ground opened wider, as though it were a living mouth, ready to consume. Jenna felt the fear of being swallowed whole, and yet she fought against the urge to retreat. She owed it to herself, she owed it to them. She inhaled deeply, summoning the courage from the depths of her soul. I have always feared judgment. I've turned my back on people who need me. I let selfishness lead my heart. But I want to change. I want to uncover what we all share. In that moment of vulnerability, the shadows began to writhe, swirling around Jenna, lifting her heart and enveloping her in a strange sanctum of warmth. The faces in the crowd shifted, some revealing glimmers of hope, while others morphed back into fear. Look inside you. The figure urged, voice now like rolling thunder. What else do you keep hidden? As if a dam had burst, images of her life flooded her mind, her father's disappointment when she chose a path of comfort over courage, the moment she looked into a friend's eyes and chose silence instead of speaking the truth that could have saved them. Each memory dripped with regret. I've hurt others, she cried out, the sound reverberating off the walls of the square. I see now that my choices echo in their lives, too. We are all woven into this tapestry of pain and connection. A murmur rippled through the crowd, a soft chorus of understanding. Jenna's voice grew stronger, infusing the air with her burgeoning bravery. We are not alone in our flaws. Our stories interlace. We rise and fail together. The figure stepped closer, illuminating the squares of the holding mass. Then step forward, Jenna. Embrace the darkness that brings you together. But know this, the actions that bind can also break, they warned, their eyes shimmering like ice. The ground beneath Jenna quaked violently, opening wider, threatening to engulf them all. The crowd gasped, their eyes widening in horror as Jenna's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Are you ready to face what is concealed within? The figure urged, extending a skeletal hand toward the abyss. In that moment, Jenna's fear transformed into a spark of resolve. She looked around, seeing the faces of those she once thought were strangers now flickering with the essence of shared battles. I am ready. She shouted above the roar of the tremors. The crowd surged as if pulled by an unseen force. One by one they stepped closer, the bridge between individual and collective pain beginning to form. But could they truly unite in this chaos? Would revelation bring them together or tear them apart? Then, without warning, a blinding flash erupted into the air. The shadows erupted into light, casting everything into a surreal brightness that sliced through the darkness. What was this light leading them to? Would it be salvation, or something far more sinister? Jenna felt the ground shift again, a haunting whisper echoing through her mind, could they really face the truth together? And if so, what inevitable confrontation awaited them? The light pulsed, a heartbeat in the chaos, and Jenna squinted, trying to take it all in. The crowd was alive with energy, their forms blurring in a kaleidoscope of shifting shadows and bright flashes. Around her, gasps and murmurs danced above the rumble of the earth. Could they truly support one another, or would this light expose all their darkest fears? Brace yourselves. The cloaked figure shouted, their voice rising above the din. The truth is a double-edged sword. Underneath her, the ground opened wider, the chasm like a beast eager to swallow them whole. Jenna felt a shiver run down her spine. What lay beneath? Was the darkness more comforting than the judgments of their shared truths? The crowd's energy shifted, a collective anxiety cascading through the air. Faces she once knew twisted with worry. As she looked around, Jenna felt the emotions swirling, each person grappling with their own concealed reality. She recognized the glimmer of humanity in their eyes. Each held regrets, burdens they carried like stones in their pockets, unwilling to show to the world. With a cry that could barely be heard above the rising tremors, Jenna reached for the nearest figure, a woman with tears streaming down her cheeks, trembling like a leaf caught in an unforgiving wind. Join me. We must face whatever this is together. But then, there was a rumble, and the ground crackled like fragile glass beneath them. The crowd stilled, a collective breath held, waiting for a sign, a promise of hope or despair. What if it consumes us? A voice called from the crowd, fear evident. What if everything we hide just comes out? Jenna didn't flinch. Then we face it. Look at us. We've been hidden in our silence for too long. Let us embrace our stories. At that moment, the light intensified, washing over them in blinding waves, and with it came a profound silence, swallowing the panic. Jenna's heart raced as she felt a surge of energy weave through the crowd. Each breath felt laden with anticipation, thick with the weight of secrets poised to spill. Slowly, the brightness morphed, shapes forming in its depths. Faces she recognized appeared, each one carrying their own pain: her father, the classmate she had ignored, the friend she had abandoned in her time of need. Their eyes, hollow and searching, reflected every misstep she wished to forget. They're here, she thought, a tightening in her chest. Am I ready to see them? To own my failures? What if I can't handle it? But the whispers from the crowd swelled, a rising tide that pushed against her insecurities. We want truth. We want redemption. They longed for it, bound by the very breath of shared existence. The cloaked figure raised an arm, summoning forth a pulse of energy that ricocheted like thunder through the gathering. Together, then. With every drop of courage you share, a part of the darkness dies. You are not alone. The essence of humanity is found in the acceptance of our flaws. Step forward. Jenna's heart raced faster, her feet moving before her mind could protest. The moment had arrived. She took a deep breath, igniting the spark within her. Her voice burst forth, raw and liberating. I am not perfect. I carry the weight of my choices, but I will not hide anymore. My pain is part of this fabric, and so is yours. As the last words left her mouth, the crowd erupted. Shouting. Wailing. Crying in a rush of catharsis. It was as if a dam had burst, releasing a flood of humanity. Individual fears twined together like vines. Suddenly, the light dimmed, revealing an enormous book hovering above the abyss, its pages fluttering as if caught in an unseen wind. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. What was written there? Would their names be inscribed, or forgotten forever in the shadows? They stood at the edge, united yet trembling, their hearts pounding with the looming uncertainty. A fleeting moment of clarity swept over Jenna, asking the one question that shook her core: were they truly ready to confront what lay within those pages? Would the revelations draw them together or tear them apart completely? The crowd's cries faded into a thick silence, pierced only by the rustle of the book's pages. Jenna's focus zeroed in on its shimmering surface, an obvious invitation and threat all at once. With the flickering light of the abyss reflecting in her eyes, she felt the collective weight of fear and courage hovering above them like a knife balancing on a thread. Will it reveal my mistakes or expose my true self? She wondered, her heart pounding like a war drum, echoing in her ears. Around her, murmurings turned to whispers and whispers to hopeful calls for clarity. Who will read it? Someone shouted. The urgency in their voice mirrored Jenna's racing thoughts. What does it mean? The cloaked figure stepped forward again, their silhouette a dark contrast against the luminescent backdrop. The book is not just a ledger of sins, it is a testament of choices, a record of every breath taken in fear and in faith. Each of you has a name written inside. You must claim your truth or watch as the light carries it into darkness. Jenna felt her pulse quicken. Could they trust this? The idea of standing exposed in front of everyone, no lies left to hide behind, made bile rise in her throat. But part of her ached for release. If we don't open it, will it consume us anyway? She thought, glancing at the deepening chasm that seemed to thrum with an ancient energy. The air buzzed around her as others echoed her internal struggle. Faces contorted with hope, fear, and uncertainty. I'll go, cried a young man with wild hair and wild eyes. He stepped forward, his voice quaking with uncontained emotion. We should know. We shouldn't be afraid of what's inside. Jenna felt his bravery seep into her own veins. Yes. We need to know what the book holds together, she said boldly, her heart on fire. But the warmth of her words was chased by a cold wave of doubt. What if it tears us apart? A group of hands reached out, forming a circle around the boy. Those who believed in facing the truth began intertwining fingers, steadying each other as they prepared. Jenna joined them, feeling the warmth of their resolve seep through her skin. Reveal it. Someone shouted, and like a pendulum set in motion, the energy rippled through the crowd. Jenna felt her breath hitch. The cloaked figure raised both arms again, and the book began to glow brighter. The pages flipped wildly, then snapped to a stop, resting on a name. A deep, resonating voice broke the tension. This is a call, a cry for those ready to confront their essence. Who will stand first? A chilling rush swept through the crowd. Sweat beaded on Jenna's brow as she glanced around at the faces panic was setting in. Who will have the courage? But what if my truth isn't enough? A girl whimpered, her voice shattered. The crowd shifted, shadows dancing like wraiths. Jenna's heart sank, they were all wrestling with the same fear. Let her go, she urged, stepping forward as she forced her voice to carry confidence. We can't step away now. Not after everything. Would they listen? Would they follow? A ripple of murmurs echoed through the crowd as they turned from the shadows of their fears and toward the glowing pages, each heartbeat thunderous. The book resumed its swirling motions, as if alive, ready to unveil secrets hoarded in darkness for too long. Jenna's eyes locked onto that eerie light, and the weight pressed heavier on her chest. Was she prepared for the truth that could change everything? Then, just as she felt herself ready to venture forward, the pages began flipping again. Names scattered across them like falling leaves. Each name glowed softly, whispering promises, fears, and legacies. Underneath the blooming chaos, a name glowed hot, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jenna barely breathed, caught in the grip of dread and anticipation. Would her name be there? What if it revealed her deepest truth? Before she could voice her thoughts, a piercing scream shattered the air, halting time. It can't be. Jenna's pulse raced. Whose truth had been revealed? What really lay waiting in the dark beneath them? Everything froze as the crowd turned, eyes wide with horror. The veil of secrecy had threatened to tear away, exposing what they had hidden for so long, and now, Jenna found herself about to discover what lay within the unfathomable depths of the book in their own hearts. Would they all face judgment? Or would the revelations be the very thing that pulled them together in the end? The stillness thickened around them, a sharp contrast to the chaos that had reigned moments before. Jenna's heart thundered in her chest, each beat a drumroll leading to the unknown. The screams still echoed in her ears, morphing into a haunting symphony of fear that gripped every member of the crowd. What just happened? Whispered a voice from the back. Eyes darted back to the book, still aglow and flipping pages as if seeking the perfect moment. It had become a pulse in the crowd, a living entity that thrummed with secrets. Someone's name was called. Jenna shouted, her own fear propelling her voice above the rising panic. We have to find out who. The cloaked figure eyed her intently, a glimmer of approval hidden beneath layers of opaque fabric. Fear can paralyze, but it can also liberate. Only through truth can you unravel the darkness that binds you. The crowd shifted uneasily, the weight of uncertainty pressing like a heavy fog. Jenna stepped closer, heart racing, drawn to the luminosity emanating from the pages. Maybe this is what we need. We need someone brave enough to face their truth. Who would be that brave? A frail voice countered from the side. It was the girl who had faltered earlier, her face painted with despair. Anyone. Jenna insisted, her resolve building. If we stand together, we can handle whatever comes. We can't let fear silence us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, yet doubt lay heavy on many hearts. People began to shift their weight, some looking away, others grasping tightly to the hands beside them. Everyone wrestled with their own demons, with the essence of what it meant to be laid bare. Let us start with the one who screamed, Jenna proposed, turning to the direction of the voice. Where are you? Show yourself. Silence wrapped around them, thick and stifling, before a figure stepped hesitantly toward the light, eyes wide. It was a girl, maybe a year younger than Jenna, trembling and pale. It was my brother's name, she stammered, the weight of those words shocking the crowd back into silence. A gasp echoed, voices sprung to life. What does that mean? It means he is here, or he was, she said, tears brimming. He was lost, and perhaps. Jenna stepped forward, her heart breaking at the sight of the girl's pain. What was his name? The girl drew a trembling breath. Alex. A shudder rippled through the crowd. Jenna could see their thoughts. Alex, the one who went missing, the one whose family had feared the worst. She felt the buzz in the air intensify, a charged wake of trepidation and sorrow enveloping them all. Why does it matter now? Someone yelled, fear igniting frustration. He is gone. What if he is still with us, waiting for us to remember him? Jenna ventured, an idea igniting within like a spark in the dark. Could it help us find him? Show us who we've lost. The murmuring grew, wild and chaotic, the shadows of doubt flickering but not extinguished. The cloaked figure turned slightly, drawing attention once again. Facing your truth can reveal the paths you tread and those you've lost along the way. A voice in the back whispered, but what if we find something worse? Regardless, we find something, Jenna cried out, determination mingling with fear. We can't let our pasts dictate our futures. The book's pages continued to turn, names glowing in chaotic succession. Jenna's heart raced. Was Alex truly lost? Would the truth shift them to find him or destroy them? As the pulse of energy crescendoed, another name finally settled atop the pile. It's time, the cloaked figure intoned, voice clear, ringing through the thick tension. Who will face their truth first? Jenna's breath hitched. She felt the weight of connection, the pulling urge to step forward. But behind her, the fear of exposure threatened to wean her courage. A quick glance around revealed faces painted with both anger and despair. What if revealing our truths only hurts us further? A deep voice called out from the back, laced with doubt, the answer hung heavy in the air, an unanswered question that danced like shadows. Around them. The book pulsed ominously, a harbinger of judgments yet to be revealed, and Jenna stood firmly at the cusp of revelation, knowing that uncovering the truth could either be their salvation or their doom. Would the weight of their truths unite them or tear them further apart? The crowd was thick with tension, the air so charged it felt electrified, as all eyes landed on the girl who had stepped forward to admit her brother's name. Jenna's stomach churned, an unsettling blend of anticipation and dread. Who would speak next? Would anyone step into the fray, or would they allow the book to spiral further into chaos? I'll do it, Jenna declared, thrusting her hand in the air. The faces around her turned, surprised and hopeful. I'll face the truth. Whatever it is. The cloaked figure nodded, the hood shading the piercing gaze that seemed to penetrate her very essence. The book quivered, at last, stopping on a name, Jenna's own. Her heart raced at the sound of her name, stoking the flames of her courage. Wait. What does that mean? She blurted, her voice barely registering over the gasps that rippled through the crowd. It means you will be judged, the figure said, her voice solemn. Your truth will be revealed. All will witness. Jenna felt sweat bead on her forehead. Judged? Her truth was her own, a series of secrets carefully wrapped in layers of denial and shame. Would they be ready for what was to come? Mistakes, pain, regret, the figure continued. The things we bury shape our lives. And you, Jenna, will need to face them before anyone else can. From the back, the girl cried out, but what if it's too much? What if it hurts her? A ripple of murmur ran through the crowd, some nodding, others shaking their heads. But Jenna stood rooted to the spot, determination swelling like the tide. Whatever it is, it's nothing worse than what we've all lost. She shouted, her resolve giving her weight. It's time we confront this head-on. We can't let fear keep us from finding our loved ones. Not anymore. With a wave of the cloaked figure's hand, the book began to glow brighter, the edges shimmering with a golden hue. Pages rushed past in a blur before halting at the beginning of a new chapter, one that Jenna could only assume would lead to her own dark revelations. Jenna's hands trembled, the warmth of the book enveloping her as she stepped forward, heart pounding louder than ever. In her mind swirled the specters of memories, not all of them kind. The whispers of shame and confusion clung to her like chilled fog. "Remember, Jenna," the figure warned, voice echoing within the quiet chamber. "Only honesty can lead to liberation. Do not hide from what you fear." A chilling silence engulfed the square, completely still apart from the flickering light that danced from the book. She could feel the weight of the crowd's fears, their eyes wide with both empathy and terror. As the words began to emerge from the pages, Jenna braced herself. What would come out? Would those buried truths rip open old wounds, or would they offer something she hadn't dared to hope for, a chance for redemption? And then, a name appeared. Not just any name, but the name of her first love. The boy who had left her world shattered when he vanished without a trace. It felt like a knife twisting in her gut as memories surged, a mixture of joy and haunting loss. "Taylor," she breathed, catching the crowd's attention, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Face it, Jenna," the cloaked figure demanded softly, urging her to embrace the truth she tried so hard to forget. "What happened to him? What do you remember?" A suffocating reality pressed in on her chest. Would she dare pour those memories into the air, allowing them to be knotted with shared grief? In that agonizing moment, honesty battled against the fear pulsing inside her. What would revealing this truth do to her? To those who surrounded her? The whispers of the crowd grew louder, and Jenna felt the shifting undercurrents of anxiety and anticipation. "Please," she murmured, skin prickling as the gravity of the moment sunk in. "What if I can't face it?" An ominous silence punctuated her question, heavy with the unsaid and the unknown, and then, in the back, a new voice broke through the tension. "Maybe the truth isn't what we think it is." Jenna's heart raced. What did that mean? What truth were they all hiding from? As fear gnawed at her resolve, a mischievous flicker ignited in the book, illuminating a path they had yet to traverse. An unsettling sense of urgency tinged the air. What other names lay hidden in the pages? And what would be revealed when, one by one, they dared to confront their fears? Jenna held her breath, the silence dragging like a weight around her neck. The crowd seemed to lean in, their collective hope and dread bubbling over in a mash of muffled whispers. And yet, all Jenna could hear was the echo of her heart, hammering against her ribcage like a caged animal desperate for freedom. "Taylor," she whispered again, the sound barely escaping her lips. It felt raw and exposed, the name a haunting melody that lingered in the air. Her mind spiraled back to moments they shared, his laughter, his bright smile, how simple things had felt before he vanished into nothingness. Memories that now felt like shards of glass. "What do you remember?" The cloaked figure pressed, stepping closer, the shadows of her hood deepening, obscuring her features. The cloaked figure's voice, though soft, held an edge, pushing Jenna towards something she wasn't ready for. "Ugh," Jenna stumbled over her words. "I remember the way he smiled at me, the way he used to joke about running away together." A murmur rose from the crowd. People shifted, eyes darting among one another, and Jenna sensed a wave of empathy flooding the square. But along with it, there was doubt. Fear. Judgments being cast in silence. "Think, Jenna," the figure urged. "What about the last time you saw him?" A chill crept down her spine. There it was. The moment suspended in time. He was angry. "We fought. I said things I shouldn't have." Her voice cracked. "Then he left. And I never got to apologize." A gasp erupted from the crowd, a shared understanding reflected in wide, glassy eyes. Pain met guilt, echoing through the square like a ripple through water. She could feel their breaths, hot and heavy, with a mixture of compassion and horror. "Jenna!" A voice called, breaking through the haze. It was the girl from earlier, the one who had faced her fear. We've all lost people. We all have regrets. You're not alone in this. Tears stung her eyes, an unexpected rush of warmth washing over her. The camaraderie allowed a flicker of courage to reignite within her. But this is different. She shouted, her voice trembling. Taylor was my everything. What if facing my truth isn't enough? Then bring us with you. The girl replied, her voice brighter, grounding. We'll face it together. A palpable energy moved through the crowd, emboldening Jenna. If confronting the truth meant bending the shadows of her regret and loss into something more, then maybe just maybe she could do this. The book shimmered in front of her, its pages flipping slowly, almost teasingly. Another name emerged, brighter than before, Taylor Henderson. Words spilled into view, each letter imbued with anticipation and fear. Jenna's heart stumbled at the weight of the realization. It wasn't just her memory anymore. It belonged to them all. What happened that night? The figure asked once more, her tone pressing. It's time, Jenna. Everyone deserves to know the truth, even you. The name tugged at her heart as if trying to drag her back into the depths of pain. He didn't come home that night. I thought he was just upset and needed time. But then he was gone. Forever. The silence expanded, stretching the air tight around them. It's my fault, she breathed, feeling the burden grow heavier, almost suffocating. Just then, the book sparked, casting shadows that danced against the walls of uncertainty. Jenna's pulse quickened as she sensed something larger looming. Unspoken truths whispered all around her, rising to the surface like embers igniting a fire. What if Taylor isn't just gone? Jenna asked, half to herself. What if he's trapped somewhere? A murmur of voices surrounded her, the air humming with shared realization. What if they weren't just facing old wounds? What other secrets would the book reveal? As Jenna stood triumphantly at the edge of her fear, the cloaked figure lifted her hand, halting the energy that swelled around them. Choices lead to consequences, Jenna, the figure said. Are you ready to confront what lies beyond his name, knowing it could alter everything about who you are? Every eye in the crowd now focused on her, their fear and hope merging in a powerful tide. Would they collectively dive into the depths of these revelations, or would they watch as she took that leap alone? The book beckoned her, and she could feel the universe shift slightly in anticipation. Are you ready? The cloaked figure asked, her voice echoing. Jenna swallowed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The moment had come. Would she dive into the unknown, risking everything for the answers she craved? Take my hand, the girl urged. What awaited them in the pages of those lurking mysteries? Would she be ready to uncover the truth about Taylor? The air thickened with suspense as Jenna prepared to leap into the dark abyss of her memories. Was she truly ready to face the shadows of the past? And would they find more than just the truth about one name? Jenna stood on the edge of the abyss, heart thrumming as the book pulsed before her. The crowd held its breath, anticipation weaving through the air like a live wire. She could feel the warmth of the collective gaze, urging her forward, a mixture of support and shared trepidation. I'll do it, Jenna declared again, the words spilling from her lips like a long-held breath finally escaping. She stepped closer, resolute. The figure's hand gestured toward the book, and it began to glow with an ethereal light, illuminating the shadows that had cloaked the square in darkness. The echoes of those who had gone before her lingered in the air, their hopes, fears, and regrets blending into one heavy tapestry. And then she took the leap. Taylor Henderson, she said, claiming the name, summoning the memories tangled in her heart. He was my first love. We fought, and he never came back. The crowd rippled with emotion, a soft murmur reflecting their understanding of loss and heartache. Jenna felt the encouragement swirl around her, empowering her. But what if he is still here, waiting for me to remember? Her heart raced. What if he is trapped somewhere, and I can help him? The figures stood silent, observing, the shadows deepening around them. "If you dare to look deeper, you might uncover more than you seek, Jenna," they warned. "The truth can be harsh, but it can also liberate." Jenna pressed on, determined. "I can't hold back anymore. I want to stand before this truth, not just for myself, but for everyone who feels the weight of their past." The crowd leaned in, their faces lit with hope and despair, reflecting her turmoil. "We've all made choices. We've all lost people. Let us face them together," she shouted, the fire of her conviction igniting a wave of solidarity among the crowd. One by one, people began to join her, stepping toward the pulsing book. "I'll face it with you," a voice cried out, followed by another, "Me too." Fear mingled with courage, creating an electric atmosphere. They had all been running from their truths, hiding in shame and regret. But now, as they faced the book and one another, a bond unwound, weaving them closer together. Jenna, the figure prompted softly, pulling Jenna back to the heart of her own narrative. "What do you fear most? What do you wish to remember?" With a deep breath, Jenna lunged into the pool of memories. "Shame and regret, most of all. The anger I held on to after he was gone. I thought I could swallow the pain, but it only twisted my heart. I let it consume me." Tears streamed down her face as she relived the final moments with Taylor, the anger, the hurtful things they said, and the final goodbye that turned into an eternal separation. "I shouldn't have let fear come between us," she cried, her voice breaking. "We could have fought this together." The ground trembled beneath them, a reflection of her turmoil, but the shadows around her began to disperse. With every word, more light seeped through, revealing not just her pain, but the pain shared by others. "It's not just about Taylor or my regret. It's about understanding that we are all intertwined in this web of existence. We've hurt each other and loved fiercely. We've lost and found ourselves in the dark." Jenna felt a shift, and the ground began to pulsate in rhythm with her heartbeat. The energy in the square swirled and intensified, carrying with it the voices of the crowd, a harmonious blend of shared confessions. "We are not defined by our mistakes. We can heal together," she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony of emotions. Then, the book responded. A brilliant light erupted from its pages, illuminating the crowd in a wash of golden glow. Jenna felt strength surging within her, and as the figures stepped into the light, their form transformed, revealing kindness and clarity. "Now, behold what lies within," the figure said, voice echoing powerfully, resonating in the collective heart of those assembled. "In truth, you shall find connection. In the light, you shall find healing." The names began to shimmer on the pages, one after another, revealing lost connections and hidden truths tied to every person present. Faces materialized within the glow, flashes of past moments blending into an acknowledgement of shared love and loss. They were not alone in their grief. The light enveloped them, bathing the square in a sense of unity. Tears fell freely, cascading down Jenna's face, mixed with the joyous relief that flooded through her. "Taylor," she called, reaching for the warmth of the light. "I'm sorry. I let fear keep me from you. But I'm reclaiming our love." And in that moment, she felt a shift, a sense of being embraced by something profound and beautiful. The light intensified, cascading through the crowd, lifting spirits higher. Compassion wrapped around them like a warm blanket, the threads of connection binding everyone together, flowing through Jenna's heart and nourishing it. The cloaked figure smiled, their eyes radiating approval. "You shall find redemption in acceptance. Healing thrives in vulnerability." As the last of Taylor's warmth enveloped her, it ignited sparks of hope, revealing a tapestry woven from their collective struggles. They had stood together, faced their pasts, and confronted the truth of who they were. The names within that book would no longer haunt them. Instead, they would become the stories of their reclamation, woven into the light. As the radiance pulsed, Jenna felt the light seeping into the very essence of her soul. "Together, we will rise," echoed in her heart. "Fear will no longer bind us," she declared, the crowd echoing her realization. Let us move forward, hand in hand, into the light of our shared humanity. And with that, they stepped together into the brilliance, ready to embrace the future. The shadows retreated, leaving behind a bond so powerful it would never again be broken. As the light enveloped them in a stunning embrace, a sense of peace settled in. Each person emerged transformed, leaving the judgments of the past behind. Now was the time to rebuild, to share, and to grow, for they had faced their fears and emerged victorious in unity. Jenna smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face, overwhelmed with gratitude. They were more than a crowd, they were family, forged in the fire of their truths. And just like that, the darkness vanished, making way for a bright future painted with the colors of understanding and compassion. As the new day dawned, it was clear, the story would continue, just as they would, holding fast to their truths, their connections, and their hope for a life intertwined in love. But remember, as you take this journey with them, don't miss what's coming next. You need to subscribe now so you don't lose the pulse of the stories yet to unfold. It's the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to get these tales out into the world. Fill that comments section with your reactions and predictions on what lies ahead. And for goodness sake, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends. This community deserves it. Let us embrace the power of connection, together.